Last week, I talked to you about black and white thinking, what it is, how to recognize it. This week, I want to talk about how to begin to change it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, though, make sure you go back and catch that last episode so you know exactly what I'm talking about with this type of polarized thinking. Did you do that? Okay, so let's talk about how to stop this type of thinking, this or that, all or nothing thoughts when they come up. I'm going to share with you 10 tools that I think can be really helpful. Before I dig into them, though, I just want to say the first piece is awareness. To notice when you're having these types of thoughts. And again, the last episode gives you some more information on how to make that distinction, how to notice it when it's happening. So when you have the awareness, it's about saying, what's the gray here? Because that type of thinking, all or nothing, this or that, is not allowing for complexity, for gray, for nuance. So stopping yourself when you notice the thoughts and saying, what's the gray? What are the other possibilities here? That's really helpful. And I also want to mention that it's entirely possible for humans to have two disparate thoughts or feelings at the same time. We are fully capable of holding two very different thoughts about something at once, or two very different feelings about something at once. If you don't believe me, spend time around a child. They will happily tell you when they're feeling both angry and sad at the same time, or when they think a really nice thing about you and that they don't like you at the same time. It's possible for you too. So in those moments, allow for that duality of thought and say, what's the and? Your brain's telling you it's this or that, either or. What's the and? What if it was both? What would that look like? That type of thinking can be really helpful when you start to have these all or nothing extreme thoughts. Okay, so let me dig into 10 tools. They'll be very short and quick. Things that can be helpful when you're experiencing this type of dichotomous or polarized thinking. I think it's really important for me to address this right up top because, as I said in the last episode, this type of thinking can be symptomatic of a bigger mental health issue. So if this is regularly affecting you negatively, your relationships, your mood, your work, your health, then it's a good idea to speak to a therapist first. Cognitive behavioral therapy in particular has been proven to be very helpful in dealing with polarized thinking. Number 2, list out the possibilities. When you find yourself locked into this or that, 2 options, sit down and write out a list of every other possibility that you can think of. Write every conceivable option you can imagine, even if it seems silly or really unrealistic. Challenging the narrative in this way can kind of trick the brain into beginning to see some nuance. Number 3, ask what's true. As Byron Katie says, who I love, is this true? And number 2, can I know this to be true? Examine the evidence that you have that either supports or refutes the thoughts that you're having. It can be really helpful to challenge these polarized thoughts, the this or that options, by examining some sort of proof that goes beyond your own feelings or your own thoughts. Number 4, watch your words. Notice in your life and all the times and in all the ways how you use binary language and begin to make a conscious shift towards grayer language. I am stupid becomes sometimes I make mistakes. This is the worst becomes this could be better. It's amazing when we start to notice how much we are using this language. We are always using this black and white polarized thinking. And I just realized I did it right there by saying that we always do it. We don't always do it. We do it a lot. But that is how inundated and how conditioned it is in us to be using this kind of language. So making a conscious effort to just notice, what is your language saying? When you're talking to others, when you're thinking to yourself, where are you using binary, this or that kinds of language? And how might you begin to shift to something a bit more nuanced? Number 5, practice mindfulness. It is difficult to do that work that I just mentioned about being really conscious of your thoughts and your feelings, your actions and your words when you are always rushing, when you always feel busy. Practicing mindfulness on a regular basis can begin to help you then tune into your thoughts and your feelings and your actions, to begin to actually have the space to notice them, to pay attention, and from there to be able to make meaningful change. If you need help with mindfulness, maybe it's new to you or you've tried it and it's been hard, you don't think you have time for it, I have a great resource, a past episode that I will link to in the notes that you can go check out that gives you some really simple and quick ways to begin practicing mindfulness right now. Number 6, get curious. When you notice yourself having these sorts of thoughts, these black and white, this or that extreme thoughts, especially after you begin doing the work to really consciously bring awareness to them, it can become easy for the brain to judge them. Those thoughts are bad, or I'm bad for having those thoughts. But judging yourself or the thoughts as good or bad is just another example of polarized thinking. Instead, try to just be curious. Explore why you're having those feelings. What's this really about? Very often, those types of thoughts are born out of a fear. So you can examine, what am I afraid of? And as you do that work, as always, be compassionate with yourself. Be gentle. Number 7, look for the best. Extreme thinking tends to give us only good or bad, and many of us get focused on the bad, which can then lead us spiraling down the rabbit hole of worst case scenarios. Another way to challenge those thoughts then is to think about the best that could happen. Making this shift was really revolutionary for me, and I've done another episode about it, which I will also link to in the notes so you can go hear all about that. Number 8, talk like a friend. What would you say to a friend who is experiencing the same types of polarized thoughts? Someone who is trapped in this or that thinking. We can often give to our friends what we can't give to ourselves. So treating ourselves like a friend can help us step outside of ourselves, help us see the nuance that we might be able to see for someone else but not for ourselves, and apply that to ourselves to challenge our own thoughts, feelings, and actions. Number 9, write it out. If you've paid attention to me for a while, then you know I'm a big fan of journaling. And also, I haven't always been the best at doing journaling myself. Developing a regular journaling practice can be really helpful with challenging polarized thinking. I have made a commitment to myself to now do journaling on a more regular, consistent basis, and it has been so helpful for me in undoing some of this thinking that I still have for myself. Journaling can help you bring awareness to where you have polarized thinking. And when you find those thoughts, it can help you then also refute them, reframe them, and craft a new narrative around them. And if you struggle with how to journal or where to get started, I've got you. I have a journaling prompts bundle with hundreds of prompts on many different topics that can be a great place to get started with this exploration. It's only $24, and you can grab that at beckymollenkamp.com/prompts. And finally, number 10 is coach yourself. You don't have to invest in a coach to get the benefits of coaching. I think coaching is great, obviously, as a coach, and I think making that investment is a huge investment in yourself and a real way to empower yourself to make change, especially when it comes to this type of thinking. But if you're not able to or ready to make that type of investment, then do the work for yourself. And I talked about how in some recent episodes, which I will link to in the notes, and you can go check those out. And hint, they involve a lot of journaling as well. But it's all about asking questions. And I also talk about using the CTFAR self-coaching model, which you might find interesting and helpful. Finally, I just want to say, give yourself time and compassion. Believing that you must immediately solve or stop your polarized thinking or you're somehow a failure at this is just another example of polarized thinking. The truth is, it has taken you a lifetime to develop these thoughts, and it will take time to undo them. And the truth is, you live in a world where these types of thoughts are pervasive and we are conditioned to have them. And that doesn't go away as you do the work. So it will be a lifelong challenge of confronting and noticing these thoughts and then reshifting or changing the narrative around them. But I can tell you this, if you do the work, if you bring awareness to it and challenge this type of thinking over and over and over again, and be kind to yourself along the way, then over time, you will notice a difference. You will catch your extreme thoughts more quickly, and they will happen less often.